Hi everyone, I'm Wendy, and today I'm showing you how to make my mom's SOS-free marinara sauce. Of course, there are countless marinara sauces to choose from at the grocery store, but unfortunately, most of them are loaded with added salt, oil, and sugar. And if you try to avoid those ingredients like I do, it can be hard to find one that works. But this recipe is so delicious, you won't even know that it's salt, oil, and sugar-free. It can be used in any recipe that calls for marinara sauce, and it's so incredibly easy to make. So let's get cooking. It starts with preheating a dry Dutch oven or a large pot on medium-high heat. Once the pan is hot, I'm adding 1 chopped onion. We prefer to use red onion, but use whatever you have on hand. For the best possible flavor, you'll want to caramelize the onion. If you're in a rush and just trying to get dinner on the table quickly, feel free to skip this step and the marinara sauce will still be delicious. But for that added depth of flavor, the best way to caramelize your onions without butter or oil is to let them cook undisturbed in your pan for about 3 or 4 minutes. This will allow the natural sugars in the onions to start to come out and brown. Then, after a few minutes, you can start stirring the onions around. You'll start to see this buildup of brown on the bottom of your pan. Splash a little bit of water to deglaze the pan and mix all that flavor back into the onions. Continue cooking the onions until they're extremely fragrant and brown. It'll take about 10 minutes total. Next, I'm adding a few cloves of garlic. Add this to taste. We usually add about 2 or 3 large cloves. I'll stir and cook this for just about a minute before adding the tomatoes. I'm using 2 28-ounce cans of no salt added crushed tomatoes. And whenever I use any kind of tomato product like this, I put a little bit of water in the can to rinse out every last bit. You don't have to measure exactly, but I end up adding about a cup of water between the 2 cans. I'm also adding 1 entire 6-ounce can of tomato paste. I like to open both ends of the can, remove the top, and then carefully press the tomato paste out, being mindful to keep your fingers away from the edges so you don't cut yourself. But try not to do what I just did, dropping the metal lid into the pot. I wanted to show you my tomato paste trick and didn't think that all the way through. It would be better to add the tomato paste before you add the crushed tomatoes so you can more carefully fish out that metal piece. But I got it, so it's all good. Next, I have all of my spices. The written recipe will be linked in the details below the video, but this is 1 tablespoon each of dried basil, dried parsley, and dried oregano, a teaspoon each of granulated garlic and granulated onion, a half teaspoon each of dried thyme, crushed rosemary, and your favorite salt substitute. And last, about a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Stir everything together and add water as needed. We're going to cook this for about 40 minutes, so some of the water will evaporate. Keep in mind you can always add more water later, but it takes a lot longer to cook it down. So I tend to err on the side of less to begin with. And once all the spices are mixed in, I cover it to bring it to a low simmer. Then when it starts to bubble, reduce the heat to low, cover, and continue cooking, stirring occasionally. The longer this cooks, the better it will taste. Again, if you're in a rush, you can just heat it through and go, but we usually cook it for at least 40 minutes to bring all the flavors together. The last ingredient we add is a little bit of date sugar. You can taste the sauce and add as much as you need to balance out the acidity of the tomatoes. We usually end up adding about a tablespoon of date sugar, but depending on the brand of tomatoes you use, or if you decided to use fresh tomatoes, the flavor may differ and require a different amount of date sugar. So add it to taste. At this point, the marinara is basically ready to go. You can leave it as is for a slightly chunky texture, or I like to use an immersion blender to blend up the tomatoes and onions for a smoother texture. And that's all there is to it. This marinara sauce is ready to use in all your favorite Italian dishes, from spaghetti to lasagna, pizza, and more. It makes about a half gallon or 8 cups, which is equal to about 2 standard store-bought jars of marinara. But you could double the recipe to always keep it on hand because this marinara will freeze well. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe for more whole food plant-based meal ideas. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.